Another solid episode of Magical Revolution. Episode 6 was great. We got a lot of insight into what's going on with Cyan. Doesn't really answer too much around the prince himself, but at the same time, really great episode. And obviously getting the answer to what this curse was from the dragon, which was pretty much falling into one of my theories and the idea that it's just knowledge. Knowledge is the curse. Now, why the dragon thinks it's curse? That's going to be the big question mark. What in that knowledge is going to eventually lead to her seeing some sort of... Curses typically mean some sort of misfortune. But technically what Tilty says in the conversation with Tilty, what they kind of establish is that a curse isn't necessarily... It doesn't make it out as if curses are always negative. It's just they're things that cannot be undone by magic and medicine, basically. It sort of paints the picture that this doesn't necessarily have to be something that is a bad thing. It's just something you cannot remove. And if this knowledge that she gained was the ability to essentially infuse this magicite into Anisfia, then that becomes a curse that she can't undo. So now that she's gained that, she can no longer get rid of it, I guess. But great episode. We got more of Tilty. We got an explanation set to Tilty, which I think is a really fantastic segment because it sort of explains why she's seen as a bad person, but at the same time still has something within her that's sort of positive that at least Euphilia jumps to, but Anisfia jokes about. But now, opening up this episode, we obviously have them going to Tilty, and Euphilia sort of being a little bit hesitant to the whole thing, because again, all the rumors behind Tilty herself, and Ilya kind of mentioning, yeah, they're sort of the same. Anisfia and Tilty are sort of the same, which is a bad thing. But no, again, meeting Tilty was great, and again, really getting a full explanation of who she is, why she's seen as a bad thing, because apparently her magic messes with her. So every time she uses magic, it messes with her mind, it makes her off kilter, off balance, and that's why she was seen as destruction, because you would assume that she used her magic, it made her go a little bit loopy, and then she caused damage. And so she decided herself to never use magic, which I think is a really interesting kind of counterbalance to Anisfia. As we remember, like that first scene that we seen with Anisfia and Tilty, Anisfia was pretty much jealous of the fact that Tilty can use magic, even though Tilty can't really necessarily use it while being in the right mind. So it's kind of that back and forth of like, I wish I could use that. No, you really don't wish you can use it like me because this has caused me all these problems. But still, like I said earlier, Tilty's sort of finding a way to use her abilities and use her knowledge in a positive way to finding cures for curses, because curses, again, cannot be cured by magic or medicine. So she's trying to find resolve for curses. That's what she dedicated her life to, which again, Euphilia admires that, but still at the same time, Anisfia got a joke about it in the idea of, no, she's actually really crazy. She just really likes digging into curses, which again leads to the curse that now Anisfia has, which obviously intrigues Tilty. The curse of the dragon, which they acknowledge is knowledge. She gained knowledge from that dragon, and that knowledge she put into paper. Now, it could be more knowledge. It's just the knowledge that Anisfia writes down is specifically how she can infuse this magicite into her safely. And that is to create this tattoo, which, yes, the whole tattoo scene, and then infuse it into her, which, let's admit, was a little bit convenient right now because we're going right into Cyan's story, which is the inclusion of Cyan essentially having a heart of a magicite, and that creating some sort of aura about her that changes people. And the only way that Anisfia can get around that, because they're already kind of assuming this is the case, through Tilty and conversation with Tilty, they're assuming, yes, she's probably got something about her that's causing other people to be positive with her. Specifically that it's an entrancing of those around her, which has always been a problem to her, which kind of leads into the tragedy within Cyan. And again, I kind of expected this. This writer's really good, and so I'm assuming that every character is sort of going to have a story behind them that either makes them at least understandable. That's all I expect. Even with Al, I expect that his story is going to be understandable. Even if I might not agree with it immediately, I might agree with it in the end. It's understandable. Cyan, her story was understandable. And I'm kind of glad about that. Like, again, technically when they had him, I'm getting so ahead of myself. When they kind of went to Anisfia and said, hey, can you help us talk to her? Because we respect your thought process. We respect how you think about things. You're unique in that regard. You're a little wild, but we respect your opinion. And so they wanted her there. And I fully expected Cyan, her father coming in there, the father's, apologizing profusely. But then as they were talking, and everybody starts to kind of ramble. They start to ramble on about how, yes, she's obviously not at fault here. There's obviously an answer to this. Both parties are obviously not doing wrong. People are making conclusions. And I knew at the moment, and of course it was kind of added, they had the music in the background to sort of add to the experience. You knew something was off based on the music, the ambient music. But everybody was jumping to conclusions. And nothing was really based on the original statements made by Cyan, her father, and her. And so you can draw the conclusion that based on how they're rambling on and on and on and making conclusions, something's not right here. And it takes Anisfia to sneeze. It gets super embarrassed. Everybody get better. I like them. No, the mother was like okay with it. She kind of just chuckled along with it. But the father was like, Anisfia, what the heck? But what I was afraid of in this scene was really to have that moment where we have the cackling bad guy, where Cyan stands up and goes, hoo, 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 yes, it was me all along, and have the big, stupid, oversized grin. But that's me thinking typical anime. And I don't think this writer is typical. This writer does really think about how to really lay out these characters. Now, yes, a little bit easy in the idea that she's another damsel in distress. It's just kind of a product of her own circumstances. Something that she didn't intend for to actually happen to her. But at the same time, it at least explains it. And it sort of gets more into the idea that Anisfia is not going to be just a solo case. This has sort of opened the broader door that Anisfia isn't unique in having the magicite in her. That there's going to be other people. Now, was it implanted in her? That's the big question mark. She's never known this was a thing. She's always just assumed that everybody is drawn to her and it causes problems for her, so she kind of distanced herself. So it at least implies that she wasn't aware of it and that she's always been dealing with it. So it makes me believe that this is something that was maybe implanted in her when she was very young. By who? The assumption is probably this Chartos guy. Probably he was involved with it. But that's going to be the question mark going forward. Because it does seem like they're adding to the harem. Like, Cyan's going to be a part of Anisfia's harem now. They're just building up this harem within Anisfia's workshop. She's got her maid, she's got Euphilia, and now she's got Cyan. We're just going to have this whole huge harem in there, which I like how they mentioned at the very end. That's not a good thing. You know who's at that villa? You're essentially going to have the two brides of the prince in your villa. Like, you're stealing everybody's wives from Algar. But no, I love the scene where they introduced the mother. That was fantastic. Something I was completely not expecting. She looks great. But apparently it was one of those moments where I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I never thought about the mother. Like, I never really considered, wait, does Anisfia has a mother? Like, where's she at? But no, apparently she's been out doing diplomatic stuff this whole time, and she finally returns. And yes, she wasn't mad at Anisfia. She said, your exploits has caused me to come back here. But no, she was actually there for Algard. What Algard had been doing. Which again, that was that interesting element of expanding on what's going on with Algard, is they looked at all of the evidence and it literally point to Euphilia did nothing wrong. So why is everybody following after what Algard's doing? They just immediately jump to accepting what Algar said. They want to do, they accept what his theory is. And thus, there was something that was causing them to do that. And that was the aura that she was emitting from her magicite. But again, I like the fact that in the end, they respected her choices. Like, she is still a bright mind. Yeah, you would assume that something like this would just be handled by the king, the queen, and the fathers involved. That would be something they would handle, the higher-ups. Why would basically an exiled princess, self-exiled princess, be involved with this matter? Because they respect that she sees things differently. So they knew that she was somebody that would probably help them in trying to figure out what's going on. But yeah, totally dig the tattoo scene. Her the entire time talking about this whole situation, and she's just tapping at her back and making this tattoo on her back. I thought it was cute. And then, of course, the following scene with having her have to take a bath and Ilya having to wash it down the entire time. But again, plays into the fact that both Tilty and Anisfia kind of figure things out. And I think that them combined is a great kind of team. So it was kind of nice that she was having to see Tilty anyways, because Tilty knows how these curses work and knows a little bit about something that is not necessarily treatable by typical magic. Something that somebody would not normally know. Somebody who knows about curses would know about. Because you would assume that in this world, if somebody's dealing with a curse, they would try to fix it with magic or medicine, and it wouldn't be fixable, so they would just assume it's a curse and not deal with it anymore. Tilty's different. Tilty would be the one that would actually sit there and think that through. So I really do like the fact of how useful Tilty is to the situation. Kind of wish that Tilty would just come to the villa. Now, I can't necessarily agree with the process in which Anisvia has to figure out what's going on with Cyan. She just goes up there and starts patting her. And this is one of those little questionable moments of like, I kind of wish I could read the segment in the light novel for this, because again, Anisvia's touching her, feeling her out, and eventually she realizes, okay, yeah, I know what's going on here, and she sort of takes a step back, and Cyan's sitting there, she's holding herself, covering herself up, and she's looking a little vulnerable, and Anisvia has this brief moment of like, she's stuck, and then there's like this, it sort of implies that the tattoo, like the energy that was within her, the seal that she has now, kind of strikes her, and she wakes up from it. So it's one of those ones of like, was it because Anisvia was being attracted to her, and then she finally snapped herself out of it? Or was it the fact that, yes, the entrancing affected her, and then the tattoo snapped her out of it? It's like Yuri, or just because of the curse? Because she did say that women were coming to her side as well, and that's what kind of eventually led Tilty to go, look, there's got to be something else in play here. Yes, some women are going to be attracted by her, but the assumption is that if women are following her that would normally be attracted to men, then something's going on here. But like I said earlier, I was really kind of affected by what was going on with Cyan. She really did feel like a tragedy within the situation. And yes, it leads me to my thoughts in the whole after scene that it seems as if Cyan was being used as well. Now, the big question mark here, the question mark that I have is obviously, again, Algard is working with this Count Chartreuse. They're obviously trying to break the system. And he wasn't expecting Anisvia to get involved. Anisvia was the wild card that broke his plans. And his plans was obviously to use Cyan to sway everybody to what he's doing, to break the current system, to kick Euphilia out. And yes, go against his father's wishes. Now, the question mark that I have is, was Algard affected by Cyan? And that's why he's been doing this whole thing. Because Cyan herself says, no, there's no feelings here. I never presumed to step out of my bounds, out of where I belong, and step into his world. She respected the boundaries of the royalty, and that she was a commoner, or a past commoner, and that she had no right to step forward. But Algard was pulling her forward. Now, was it because he was entranced by Cyan? Or did he have his own plans, and Chartreuse came to him and said, use Cyan, she will be a weapon for you in what you're doing? That's kind of where I'm thinking, because it doesn't seem like Algard's upset that their plans with Cyan failed. He's like, crap, Anisvia got involved. That kind of ruined things. Guess it's time to move on to plan B. He's not saying, how dare she question Cyan? How dare she question our love? It seems like even based on Cyan, what she's saying, there's no love here. He doesn't love me, I don't love him, I would never step out of those bounds. She was being used. And it explains why she looked so uncomfortable at the ball, at the celebration. She wasn't there at her own volition. She was being used. And her being there, her presence there, is what Algard wanted to affect everybody. And for them to accept what he was saying about Euphilia. But it does lead into the fact that, yes, now he officially sees Anisvia as a threat. And he wants to seemingly get rid of her. Their plan will remain. His plan, whatever his plan is, which is probably to kind of crumble this system, but he has to move faster. And she's a problem child in this situation, but she's not without weaknesses, and he's going to exploit those weaknesses. Now, what those weaknesses are, that's the big question mark. Does he feel that she has weakness in the idea that she cares for other people, so he can use Euphilia, use Cyan, use Tilty against her? Or does he feel like her lack of magic is something that he can exploit, which, again, at this point, we know is not a case anymore. She has power. Now, does she have magic? We don't know yet. She has this seal, she has this curse, she has this magicite implanted into her, but does that allow her to use magic like everybody else? Does she have the power of a dragon? That's the thing that we're going to be probably seeing, hopefully, the next episode, because we haven't seen her experiment with it yet, besides using it to block this magicite from Cyan. But yeah, I like I said, adding to the harem thing with the mother saying, yeah, technically, Cyan's a threat. We can't have her in this nation. She's affecting people's mental state. She can't be here. Like, she has to go away. And so, yes, Anisvia's immediately like, what? Oh, I'll take her. Like, whenever somebody discards somebody and Ispy's like, I'll take her. Can I have it? Can I have it? It's like these stray dogs. We have to get rid of these stray dogs. Can I have the puppy? That's an Ispia. Again, I kind of wonder if she was physically attracted to Cyan. I don't think so, but I wouldn't put it past her. She would probably see somebody like Cyan as like this cute thing that I need to bring in, this cute lost puppy, I need to bring her in. But it goes to her whole thing with Ophelia as well. This idea of somebody has been discarded, I will take them in. I will show them purpose. I will give them the place to stay. Because again, she's an outcast herself. Ophelia is an outcast. You're just like me. Cyan is now an outcast. You're just like me. Come here and be with me. If that's going to turn into a big harem, I don't know. But we'll see. I forgot to mention, but yeah, I guess technically the tattoo is literally it seems like they're implying that the tattoo itself is literally the magicite, because she was blowtorching at some point, turning it to a liquid form. And I think they then took that and pretty much tattooed onto her, like turn it into a liquid, and that's what that red stuff was that she was planting on. So it's like, interesting way of injecting the magicite is literally into her skin, which would make you wonder if somebody were to at least scar or burn her back, would it go away or is it protected? Anyways, great episode 6 of Magical Revolution. Hope you guys enjoyed my video. As always, if you did, make sure that like button down below, comment, let me know what's thought of the episode. If you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button so you got my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, tips link, super thanks button down below. We also have a membership button. Greatly appreciate everybody that does, and y'all take care.